Look at that bleed duration.
So that's respectable. That was about half my health. You know, if you discount the initial damage from the shot.
Don't heal up.
Okay. Yep. So 2 bleeds off of the shot is a definite kill for nobody with armor stats. Check. Okay, I'm now sitting at 1.4 mil armor.
All right.
Again, not optimized or anything, but 1.5 is the normal build I hear people talking about, so you're only 100,000 off of that for PvP.
That's still good, dude. Look at that. That is crazy.
Although you got to remember that's definitely going to be a sitting back because this is not a burst build by any means.
What does bleed build?
Yeah, and it can be counteracted by the health pack for firewall.
Yeah, but just imagine me shooting you while you're bleeding.
I'm just interested in the psychology behind it.
Incoming cargo plane with dark zone drop.
These guys, man. All right, look. Hit the button. Got you.
Kill Alex.
Oh man.
Oh no, not you.
Bro, why you still got your armor?
System corruption?
I just wiped all of them. You gotta set it up right. I was running against somebody in conflict who had.
Oh yeah, definitely. But in this tumultuous back and forth.
Oh, he's about to die. Look. Alright y'all, Be Righteous here from Identity, and today I have a build for you that I know you'll enjoy. The reason I know this is because it took me a while to make this work in heroic difficulty, and if it doesn't work in heroic, I'm not posting. It's what I call certified. I promise you don't want to miss this one. So if you're new to my channel and interested in builds from DPS all the way to skill, then please drop a like and don't hesitate to subscribe for dedicated weekly content. Ever since the Division 1, I've been a fan of the bleed. The arrival of the gear set Predator's Mark only furthered my obsession even more. So since then, I've been trying to recreate something similar to this gear set's effectiveness to the best of my ability. And what I have for you now may be the best representation of it. Not too OP, but definitely above average. Have you ever wanted your bleed to actually be effective? Well, with 40,000 damage per bleed tick, let's just say it forces the enemy to use an armor kit in PvP. And in PvE applies constant pressure on the NPCs, allowing for you to inflict the highest amount of damage at all times. Before we start this description, I just want to say that my builds, and this one in particular, is different. The way I put this together is designed for optimal performance in regards to what this build's purpose is. High DPS combined with a high damage bleed. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so here we are, y'all. I had to get this build out really quick. I know I said I was going to do the one with the merciless, but I just finally got it to work in heroic, so I'm really excited to showcase it to you. To start off, we're going to be going with the survivalist specialization, which is great for status effect builds because one of the perks on it is that when somebody else is running survivalist, then you get an extra 10% to damage the targets that have a status effect. And also, each specialization gives you ammo based on how you kill the enemy or how you interact with the enemy. For example, the sharpshooter gives you TAC 50 ammo for landing headshots. Demolitionist gives you grenade launcher ammo for getting explosive kills. The survivalist gives you the crossbow ammo for getting kills with people who have a status effect. 90 to 100% of the time, that's what you're going to be doing. You know Tip of the Spear, right? How the 4-piece gives you ammo periodically just for having a gear set on. Well, this is like having Tip of the Spear because all you're going to get are kills with people that have a status effect. So that just helps your damage even more. Plus the fire grenade is great, along with what I'm going to share with you about status effects. I just recently found this out about how it works, and this is not just a DPS build, and you're going to see as I explain the build. The weapons I'm using, an Urban MDR for a rifle, and the Carnage LMG. This LMG is great. It comes with Perfect Sadist, 25% weapon damage to targets that are bleeding. The Negev variant of the LMGs. The Negev got a nerf, and rightly so, because it was doing an extra 50% damage than what it was supposed to do, but it's still a great weapon. And this named item is even better than the regular one because of the Perfect Sadist. And it came already with 12% damage to targets out of cover. I just rolled 15% LMG damage on it, so it's a great weapon. And the Urban MDR has Sadist on it as well. And the Carnage also, after 3 kills, it applies another bleed to the enemy target. And that's what you want. You just want Sadist on your weapons, because you want to maximize on the damage as much as possible. And then the difference between Perfect Sadist and Sadist is that after 4 kills on Sadist, it applies the bleed instead of 3. The Survivalist Specialization pistol has Perfect Sadist as well. And don't sleep on this, because the D50 is really strong. I use this for my reserve bullets, because when you get a kill on somebody that has a status effect, then they drop the hollow point ammo. So I just put 30 rounds of hollow point ammo in this pistol just in case I need to proc bleed again. But you're going to be bleeding people so much in this build that you don't really need to save it. It's constantly going to be up. Alright, so for the build, it's an ongoing directive. I made a build called Hemorrhage last patch, and I said this is a build that could possibly be viable for next patch. And guess what? It is completely viable. I said to my subscribers that I'm going to make a 4-piece ongoing directive with a chest piece and a backpack, because that's where the talents are, right? So I came into this patch and my level 30 gear was the same way. That's what I was running in my stream starting out, and I was running it actually almost the whole time. It's very strong. Now, what ongoing directive does is that it gives you 15% status effects. If you don't know what that is, it increases the effectiveness overall of your status effects. So damage, duration, those type of things, you know what I mean? And for the 3-piece, it has 20% reload speed, which is invaluable when you're running an LMG or any weapon. And the 4-piece, rules of engagement, the bread and butter of this build. Killing a status affected enemy drops hollow point ammo. Hollow point ammo amplifies weapon damage by 20% and applies bleed on hit. Okay? The mask came with 12.6% weapon damage, and I maxed out the status effects on here. Okay, I need you to follow along, right? Status effects, 25% right there. I farmed for a chest piece. Hopefully I can get a better one, but came with 15% weapon damage, and I rolled trauma. Trauma is what you want to use with this. You don't want to use the chest piece or backpack talent. You might be wondering, why don't I want to use the chest piece or backpack talent for the gear set? Well, because frankly, this is better than that. Trauma applies blind to an enemy when you hit them in the head, and then bleed when you hit them in the chest. Each one of them have a 30-second cooldown. So every 30 seconds you're going to be applying a status effect. If you separate these, you can apply one, and then 15 seconds later you can apply another one. So the cooldown could be lesser of a weight. You know, what I want to roll on here is another 10% status effect roll, but you know, I'm gonna get it eventually. I just have to farm for it more. So with trauma, whenever you start an engagement, no matter what, you're always going to bleed them. Whenever you start an engagement, the reason why I have status effects rolled on my gear is because it increases the duration of the bleed. The bleed that I apply is about a 10 to 12 second bleed, so you don't have to worry about not getting your damage. The damage is gonna be there. You're gonna be applying that damage plus the bleed damage. So the bleed damage that I have on here, because of the status effect rolls I have, is 40,000 a tick. If they're bleeding for like 10 to 12 seconds, that's almost 500,000 damage just from the bleed. Just from the bleed. Now, you wonder why people get melted so fast, because that's that bleed along with your DPS. And the status effects doesn't only affect the bleed, it affects the grenades. So the fire grenades damage is going to be real high, and the duration is going to be long. I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about what status effects do when I get to my skills, so you can get a better understanding about what it really is. Alright, so ongoing directive holster. It came already with 10% status effects, so I rolled 15% weapon damage, right? And with this build, you want to have all weapon damage cores. And that's the problem I had. I was trying to do like 3 here, 3 there. No, with this you want to maximize the damage, and that's why I wasn't as effective, because I wasn't doing that. For the backpack, I have an Overlord. It was a god roll. This is how it came. So this 20% repair skills helps a lot because I have 0 skill tier. So the 20% repair skill helps with that healing. At first, I was going with the Anarchist Cookbook, Perfectly Wicked, but I'd rather have the rifle damage. And Perfectly Wicked only does an extra, what, 7 seconds of duration. Doesn't change any damage. It's still the same damage. So I don't care about that. So I rolled Wicked onto this, and this is for when you make them bleed. So check this out. With Trauma, you initiate the fight, you activate the bleed, which you don't even have to engage after you activate the bleed. I've done this. I was playing this in PvP last night, and let me just say, with PvP, it's broken right now. It doesn't matter what you put on, whatever anybody puts on, they get melted no matter what. It doesn't matter. You know, it's kind of a joke. And if you've been, you know, a subscriber of mine in the past, you know that I'm an avid player in PvP. And that's what most of my videos start off with. I have PvP, then I have PvE. And in my first 2 videos, you know, Keener's Fate and the Ox, I just started with PvE because I don't want to show a build saying, oh, this build melts in PvP. No, everything melts in PvP, you know? So what's the point of doing that? You know, everybody knows that. But I was playing PvP just to see how it worked in there, and I was applying the bleed without even engaging in a fight. So I would shoot them with the Urban NBR with 1 bullet in the chest, right? They would immediately start ticking for like 10 to 12 seconds. And so they ran off in the corner, and they had to pop an armor kit. It forced them to pop an armor kit just because of the bleed damage. Now in PvP, it's nerfed to about 20,000 or 25,000 a tick, but in PvE, it's like 40 to 45,000. And that's without status effects on my chest piece and without status effects on my backpack. This is not even maxed out. So currently I have 10, 20. On the gloves I have 30. So on the knee pads I have 8.3. So I'm doing 38.3 plus 15, 53% bleed damage just from the bleed. And then a 53% increase in duration and the duration of the effectiveness of the fire grenades. This is nuts, man. The DPS is crazy on this build. Alright, so the knee pads, I just got some new ongoing directive knee pads that it just rolled with. It just came with weapon damage, so I can roll this another 10% status effects on here. That's what I'm going to do. I haven't done it yet, but I plan on doing that. Alright, for the skills, right? This is what I was talking about. We did a test in the gun range, and status effects does nothing to increase or decrease the actual damage of the hive. So you see the damage here is 353k. My clanmate, I said, yo, take off any bleed or anything that has to do with skills. Just put on your DPS build and tell me what your damage is. His damage was exactly the same as mine. Okay, but then when he threw out his hive, the bleed ticks were like half as much as mine. He was doing like 20,000, I was doing like 45, 42,000, something like that. So damage of your hive or of your skills is always going to be based upon how many skill tiers you have. Since I have 0 skill tiers, that's what it does. But you know what? When I throw my hive out, the bleed is insanely strong, even though I have no skill tier. That's why this is so great. It gives you the power of having a really strong bleed when you have no skill tier. That's why I said this is the best representation of the Predator's mark from before, because the bleed is actually very strong and you can't sleep on it. You have to do something about it when you're bleeding. And in PvE, when you make them bleed, it just stays on them constantly. And by the time I get done killing them, there's hollow point ammo all over the map, and you don't need emergency requisition to go get the ammo for you. Wicked is way better. You want to maximize as much damage as you can. So you got the 20% from hollow point, then you have the 20% from Wicked, and then you have the 25% from Perfect Sadist. That's 65% extra weapon damage. You do the math. And then for the second skill, I'm just running a chem launcher, reinforcer. Now this does heal me pretty good because I have really low armor. and because I have 20% skill repair. So yeah, this build is a DPS build, but it gives you the power of a skill tier build because of how strong the bleed is. You get the best of both worlds here, and you maximize on what this build's purpose is: high damage, high DPS, and high bleed damage. And you don't need any pestilence with this. I mean, I feel like the pestilence, amongst other things, is kind of broken. So this is not a build that requires a pestilence. It's just a build that revolves around what this set was made for, and I maximize it to its potential. So I really suggest that you try this build out. If you don't want to use the carnage, which I do suggest you use, because in higher difficulties, you know, I got 135 rounds and they're always going to be bleeding. The DPS is crazy with the carnage. One more reason why this is so great is because with trauma, when you blind them, they just stand still. And remember, the status effects makes the blind longer. So while they're blinded, they're bleeding at the same time, and then you're just causing massive damage. I'm not going to keep rambling on about how good this build is. I just want you to try it out and see for yourself. This right here is a keeper. It's certified for heroic, and honestly, a lot of my clanmates have been frustrated about PvP. I haven't really been on that much playing with them. I've been more focused on content creating. So I want to put together a group so we can actually do a legendary, and I have some builds that's ready to do them. I got some really good builds coming in the next couple of weeks. I did a post on my community chat about Legacy Week coming up, and the vote is about whether you want me to do the Liberty Technician or Firecrest 2.0, and it seemed like the votes is leaning towards the Liberty Technician, and that build is looking pretty amazing. And then I also want to bring that build that I'm supposed to make with the merciless. So I got a lot on my plate and a lot of good content coming, so stay tuned and make sure you turn that bell notification so you won't miss any of them. That'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed it and if it helped you out in any way, please drop a like and don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel. Join the family. I'll see you in my next video. Be right out.